right, welcome to another episode of Your Business Unleashed podcast. Today we're kind of doing something a little bit different. You know, we always talk about operations and staffing and tax issues and whatnot. Today we're going to talk about your mind and what's going on in there, and we're going to talk about how entrepreneurs wear too many hats. And I've got a really special guest today with us, Spencer DeLisle from the Art of Living Foundation in Canada. Welcome, Spencer.
Thanks, Clayton. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, right on. So you've got a pretty strange career path, I would say. I
That's
think it's
true.
pretty cool. You started in cancer and cardiology research. You spent some time in pharmaceutical marketing. And now you're teaching breathwork and meditation to executives, governments, elite athletes all over the world. And so you are the president of the Art of Living Foundation, executive coach, faculty member at the TLEX Institute. Am I saying that
That's
right?
right. That's
Which
right.
delivers leadership programs to organizations like Google, Deloitte, TD Bank, Federal Government of Canada. And you also are currently collaborating with the University of Toronto at Mount Sinai Hospital on research in how meditation affects PTSD, depression, anxiety in veterans, first responders. You know, so welcome. That's a pretty big resume, pretty neat journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think maybe many of you can also, you've had your experience in your own life that, okay, you have one idea about where you're going to be going in your life, and then life takes you in a different place, but brings along a lot of other opportunities and adventures. So yeah, it's been a blast, and yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Okay, so from oncology and cardiology research to Novartis to breathwork and meditation, what does that journey look like? You know, and understanding that you probably were doing a lot of listening to yourself through that journey, which is kind of that's sort of speaks to this episode. So
Yeah, Clayton, that's exactly right. And I think it came at a point in my life where I started to get a little like some success in my career and before that in my academics, and I started to reach these milestones. And this joy and fulfillment that I thought it would bring me, um, it didn't bring me that. And I noticed that as I achieved all these different milestones of mine, although it was great to achieve something, um, I started realizing that, yeah, it wasn't, kind of that juice of life that I was really looking for.
yeah.
And I noticed that at that point I started to ask, kind of bigger questions about my life. Okay, well, if I've dedicated my whole life to this research pursuit, and this is not, giving me that fulfillment, then what will? What is my life about? Why am I here? All those kind of bigger questions. So, I really went on my own kind of pursuit to answer those questions. And that led me to really learning about, the art and the science of my own mind and emotions. Because, neither at home nor at school do we learn about how to manage our own mind and emotions. And so I realized that, hey, okay, if I'm in this kind of a funk, in my own life, how do I get out of it, and how do I start having more self-agency over the way I feel and the way I move in my life? So I really look at that, a little bit darker time as a real blessing, because it gave me some great questions to act upon. And in that time, I traveled to a lot of places. I tried a lot of different kinds of things. And what made the most sense for me was this Art of Living Part One course. Like, it didn't only intellectually make sense, but I felt such a difference in my own level of energy, my clarity of mind, access to my creativity, that I had never really felt since I was a kid again.
Yeah.
So this was a big wake up call for me, and that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, cool. I talk a lot on this podcast about setting goals in your business and moving with intention, right? Because the number one strategy in entrepreneurship certainly is I call it, we call it the random hope strategy, right? You just work really hard and hope that it all works out. And so we
Right.
talk a lot about intentionality and setting targets and knowing where, you want to go with your team
Mm,
this year, or having them participate in that conversation. And that's all really good stuff to do. But if you are, I had a really negative experience in the last couple of weeks, with a friend of mine. um, I just lost a good friend of mine.
wow.
And if you don't have, this is squarely a case of not having, total, not mastery and control. That's, I'm sure that the
Yeah.
the the leader, of the founder of what you're doing, can talk about that. I'm not there, but you got to work at that to try and just keep everything under check, because it could go really bad, right? So yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And I mean, that's one of the principles, of a great leader as well, is being able to realize that, okay, I'm not, in control all the time. And, having moments where you can plan, set goals, and intentionally move towards them. But at the same time, being able to let go of control, be able to delegate, to other people,
Yeah.
and be able to focus on the work, and not be too focused on the result. Like, I know we train, professional athletes, and when, like, for example, in tennis, when they're so concerned about the score, it takes their mind out of the present moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they get so anxious or angry that they're not in the position that they are, that they totally lose the state of mind that they need to get to that place. So in some moments, of course, we're in control, we're setting our goals, we're charting that path forward, definitely. But then there are other moments where we need to be fully present and just completely let go. So, it's kind of opposite values that are complementary to each other.
Yeah, really interesting. And so, okay, prove to me this isn't just frou-frou crap. Okay, like, help me out here. You're a scientist. How did the
Sure.
science tell you early on and give you confidence that this isn't just feel-good stuff, right? So,
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, and that's exactly where my mind went when I first came to these
sure. Yeah.
techniques, Where is the data? I want to see the science. I mean, the really positive thing I love about the art of living and the techniques we teach, particularly the main technique, it's called sky breath meditation. It's a rhythmic breathing technique that brings the mind into the present moment and essentially helps us, kick off stress, negative impressions, and traumas from the past that we've been carrying around, for so long. Because no matter what you think, our past influences are present, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Yeah.
And particularly the negative stuff that's happened to us, it becomes almost like colored glasses that we've been
Mm,
putting on through our entire life, so that now when we look at a situation, it's colored by all of those, traumatic negative
experiences. Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in fact, we don't see things as they are. And when we're able to do this very powerful rhythmic practice, a lot of release happens, and it kind of takes off those glasses, those little traumas and negative impressions and stress that gets stored in the system, so that we can see things more and more as it is, and then from that make clear, logical, intelligent, intuitive action. And for me, I mean, there's over 100 peer-reviewed, 150 peer-reviewed studies from some of the top institutions, Yale, Harvard, University of Toronto, University of Ottawa, all kinds of European and Asian institutes, demonstrating the benefits of these techniques. I think one of the studies, very powerful studies, was actually showing the benefits on a DNA level.
Mm.
So there's a Harvard professor. He's now at University of Oslo. His name is Dr. Fari, and he did some research looking at the changes in the DNA when you
Oh,
do this practice.
wow.
So maybe you already know, but in the DNA, we have some genes that are either turned on or turned off. So effectively, if you have a gene, for a particular disease, if it's on, then that gene will get expressed, and you will get that disease. But if you have that gene for that disease, but that part of the DNA is turned off, then actually highly probable that you will not get that disease.
Interesting.
So we have these, promoters for health, and then we have these regulators that, bring us more to disease in the DNA. So what he noticed is that after practicing this rhythmic breathing, the DNA actually would turn on those positive genes and it would turn off the deleterious and the negative genes. So it's absolutely incredible. You would think, how does that happen, that a breathing technique that can actually affect at the DNA level? And I mean, there's many different pathways there. But if we look at like the nervous system alone, and we think about stress and our, you can say, our autonomic nervous system, it's made of two parts, maybe you already know: sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic, yeah.
That's it. So sympathetic is what's called the fight or flight. You've probably heard of that.
Yeah.
And when this gets turned on, of course, it can help us a lot. It enables us to be in dynamism and movement and action.
Yeah.
Which is great. But if it's overstimulated, then we get into anxiety, fear, panic, all these types of things. And then the other side is the parasympathetic. They call it the rest and digest. And this enables the system to really rest and rejuvenate. And what we've seen is that when we get into a stressful situation, our system clicks into the sympathetic and goes from thinking in the cerebral cortex. And what happens is the cortisol level rises in the system. It shuts down our cerebral cortex, our main higher level of thinking, and it turns on our amygdala, which is kind of our lizard brain. You can think of the cerebral cortex as the wizard brain and the amygdala as the lizard brain.
Yeah.
So it's all about that. And in the jungle, hey, or on the plains, when you got a cheetah or a bison chasing after you, well, yeah, that's going to come in really handy.
Sure.
But when you're in front of a difficult client, when you're in a high pressure presentation, like, this is not very useful. Your mind goes blank. You're not able to think properly because the cortisol actually blocks the neural connections in the brain. So, how does this change with the breath? Well, the breath is a very tangible way that we can have a very precise impact on our physical system. In this case, the breath work that we do actually gets in touch with what's called the vagus nerve, which is they call it this like second brain. Innervates the bottom half of the body into the gut, and through stimulating the vagus nerve, it actually clears out the cortisol in the cerebral cortex and kind of reboots that wizard brain to get you back to that clear, intelligent, rational thinking. So that's a little bit of a bridge in terms of how this breathing can affect and what the science has to say about it.
Got it. And so, just a little bit more on this. Thank you for that.
For
a little
sure.
bit more on that, just to expand. These are tools that I'm most likely using regularly to regulate myself in situations when it's not practical to turn on the tools. Is that right?
Yeah. So in that sense, you mean like
if I'm on stage and I like,
right.
Am I doing a breathing exercise? Like, I don't have time. Maybe before I go on stage,
right.
I'm thinking of a presentation that I'm doing to a 50, 60 accountants in a couple days.
Right.
And my, I've always sort of leaned on the separations in the presentation or preparation. I got to go through my presentation a bunch of times to sort of calm myself so that I can go on autopilot when the lines start blurring when I'm in a room in front of people, because that's horrifying for a lot of people, right? That's an example. Or when you got a pissed off client standing in front of you, as you'd said, that happens all the time. Not here, of course, not at Aiken Henderson. That never happens.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So, is it, I guess my question, coming back to my question, which is, you're setting a foundation of what daily rituals to sort of regulate yourself more often, or put yourself in a better state throughout more of the day. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question, Clayton. And yeah, I mean, this is really the foundation of how we live our life and how we're able to be successful in our business and successful with our family too.
Yeah.
You think about your level of energy. When your level of energy is high and you're feeling energized, someone can say something insulting or you can have a challenging client, and actually, it's not that big a deal. You're very
Yeah.
resourceful, you got a ton of energy, you're feeling great, you just handle it, as you would handle, your kid having a tantrum or something like that, you just handle it, very skillfully.
Right.
But if you're overrun, you're exhausted, then yeah, you're not gonna handle it as well. So we do recommend that once you learn these tools, doing them, making it a daily practice, taking a few minutes a day to practice these is ideal.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. You just find your own rhythm. That being said, you can use certain techniques in an ad hoc, kind of fashion. So there are some techniques you can do right in the heat of the moment, even just before you go on stage. And if you like, we could even do a technique together, so your audience can experience something.
Oh, while I'm on stage or right now?
We could even do it right now if you want.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it.
Okay. So this technique, it's called the straw breath, and it's very good for grounding, or if you start feeling an anxiety, nervousness, if your mind starts racing, you're not able to think clearly. This is a very effective technique for bringing you back to your center and for calming the system down. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So what we're doing, and the reason it's called straw breath, is that you breathe in through the nose and then you breathe out through the mouth with pursed lips, almost like you're breathing out through a straw. So I'll just demonstrate. You breathe in through the nose very slowly, and then long and extended out through the lips, like a pursed lips, through like you're breathing through a straw. When you need to breathe in through the nose once again, out through the mouth. Once again, in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you like, you can even close the eyes while you're doing it. We'll just do a couple more. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and a long, extended breathing out through the lips, the pursed lips. One more. In through the nose, out through the lips. Maybe we'll do one last one. In through the nose, and slowly out through the pursed lips, like you're breathing out through a straw. And with the eyes closed or the gaze softened, just observe any sensations in the body and the state of the mind. And slowly we can open the eyes. How was that?
Relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
typically we do like, 9 or 10 breaths. We only did 4 or 5 there, so typically we do it for a little bit longer.
I noticed yesterday we were out on a mountain bike ride with the kids. There's a group of kids we take out, and one of us was starting to freak out a little bit, and I actually defaulted straight to, okay, let's get off our bike, let's sit down, we're going to breathe in through the nose and slowly out through the mouth. And I don't know
Nice.
why that's a default response for me
Nice.
when I'm getting elevated in those kind of situations. But I sure could use a bit more of that at work. So let's talk about that. Why is this a business? Why does stress matter so much as a business problem and not just a personal one? Because personal, when I'm around my kids, I could do more of it. Obviously, we could all be better. But it's a little harder. That's my default there. Why isn't it my default here? Why is stress such a problem at
Right.
work? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we've got it backwards because most of us, we spend years and years sacrificing our health to gain our wealth. And then we gain the wealth at the expense of our health. We spend the other half of our life spending half of our wealth to gain back our health. So it's like not a very good, you're an accountant. That's not a very good mathematics. So
No,
no,
never.
yeah. So, being able to have these tools to, manage our mind, emotions, to be able to manage our stress, to be at a healthy level of stress where we're, you know, motivated, inspired, we're driven,
Yeah.
but we're not getting into burnout and all this, and lower energy and, screaming at our colleagues and our clients and just or maybe even just internalizing it,
Yeah.
that stress inside. It doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, if we're able to cultivate that self-mastery within us, it improves our results. Because frankly, when you're stressed out particularly, um, it's often, too much to do, too little time, and not enough hours in the day to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so this, stress comes up, and obviously we don't have to talk about all the negative impacts. It has so many negative impacts on our state of mind, our body. I mean, most diseases, and I mean, this is one of the reasons I came to learn and actually ended up, teaching these techniques full time. And now I'm the president of Art of Living Canada, is that, I noticed in the lab that so many of the patients that would come in for treatment, with cancer, with cardiovascular issues, where did it start? Started off with stress. And no matter what we did to heal the symptoms of what they were going through with their disease state, often they would even come back to us or to another department because they had not solved that underlying issue of this out of control stress and an inability, or they just lack the education to manage their mind and emotions. So, yeah, when you're able to do that for yourself and in your business, well, what does that mean? The breath, there's this misconception out there of multitasking.
I don't know what
And
that is.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And that's a positive thing because people say, oh, yeah, I'm very good. I multitask, I can get everything done. Well, actually, the research demonstrates that the brain does not multitask. What does the brain do? It switches.
Yeah. 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 Well,
It's
this is, I mean, I'm in accounting. Okay. So, and we'll go, I don't know, we got 800 clients or something, call it 800 clients.
Wow.
And when I'm working on Spencer DeLisle Art of Living Foundation Canada's year end, and Spencer doesn't have all his information ready, I have to check out of that file. What do I do? Well, there's a lineup of files behind that file. I got to check into another file. And then on Monday, I got to follow up with Spencer. Right. And then and so this idea of multitasking, you can only work, it's such an amazing textbook case for there is no such thing as multitasking in an accounting firm because the idea here is you finish a file. If you can finish a file, you finish a file. You're in it. Don't stop. Finish it. Why? Why does it bother us so much when Spencer doesn't give us his stuff like all at once? We've told you what we need. Just give it all to us, right?
Yeah, you should just give it, really.
Yeah, just give it all to me. Well, you're disorganized. You're trying to multitask, and I'm
Yeah.
using air brackets for those who aren't watching the video. And every time, and there's been studies on this, but it's something that we've talked about since we've been articling. Every time you switch files, it costs you like 20 minutes or something.
That's it. Exactly.
And so if I touch 15 files in a day, no wonder I have to work 10 hours that day. Right. And so, and then the bill goes up and Spencer goes, why was my bill so high this year? And it's like, well, I had to follow up with you 4 times. Each one of those follow-ups takes time. So if you want your bill to go down, be more organized and give me what I'm asking for when I'm asking for it, right? Don't put me on pause. And so in terms of this idea of multitasking, like I have real firsthand knowledge that's industry specific that proves that that is not a thing. And women are better at multitasking, all this. That's not true.
Yeah.
Most of our team are women, and they all have a 20-minute gap every time they have to switch files. This is not a gender thing. This is like there's no such thing as multitasking. So
Yeah, exactly. And now it's even worse because we have these crazy devices,
oh yeah.
right? And I mean, obviously there's a lot of benefits to these things, but especially for an entrepreneur, you're responsible for so many different aspects. Okay, we're not even talking about everything at home, going on at home, but
Yeah.
everything in your own business. There's just so many things that are you're taking responsibility for, that the mind is constantly pulled in many different directions. So you may not intentionally move. You may intentionally move to another file. That's one thing of being moving to something else and having that having to refocus. But there's another type of distraction, which is the distraction that comes just from our own mind.
Yeah.
If we were to ask your listeners, okay, how many times during our Clayton and my discussion here, our discussion together as a group, has your mind wandered and taken a cappuccino break or gone towards, something it has to do a little bit later? I mean, many times. And this is the thing that is wild. Everybody wants more hours in the day. But the thing is that something that should really take us 5 minutes is taking us 15.
Right.
Why? Because the mind is not in the present moment.
Yeah.
The mind is not focusing completely on what we're doing. It's off on a tangent. And then, oh yeah, I realized that, oh, my mind's gone off on a tangent. Let me come back to this. So it's taking me 3, even sometimes 4 times the time it should. The beauty of being able to manage this stress with the breath in particular is that the breath has this unique ability, like you could say the body also has this, that it's always in the present moment. Can I say, okay, I breathed enough today, I'm going to start again on Thursday, take a
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
Good luck, right?
Right.
So the breath is always in the present moment. So, it's an amazing tool for bringing the mind to the present moment, because no
Yeah.
matter what degree you have, no matter what level of education or designation you have, you're not going to be able to convince yourself to go to sleep,
Yeah.
or to
Yeah.
be able to convince yourself to come back to the present moment. That's not the way our mind works. At the level of the mind, whatever you resist persists. The more you resist a thought and emotion, that persists. So the breath is a very powerful way to bring our mind to the present moment. But also, if you ever noticed, the breath is very connected with our mind and emotions,
Yeah.
our emotions in particular. If you're very anxious, you breathe in a certain way. You may not even breathe. If you're angry, you breathe in another way. If you're relaxed, confident, you breathe in another way. So the breath is intimately connected with our mind and emotions. And that's one of the main tools we use at the Art of Living and the Transformational Leadership for Excellence Institute, what you had mentioned earlier, TLEX Institute, to bring us back to our center, to give us the energy, and to give us that silent space that we can access creativity at work.
Well, and I do a lot of podcasts about I've done podcasts on decentralized decision making, creating context with your team and really just getting in a good rhythm with your team and
Right.
letting other people make decisions, within their scope of expertise. And that's sort of the way we operate at the accounting firm. And we vibe pretty well together. We vibe pretty well together because we call it shared consciousness. And this is really bringing to light,
Nice.
like, I wonder how much we could elevate that by, just kind of giving everybody a few of these tools at work to stay more focused. You talk about the phone. I'm the worst, man. I got to put my phone away at home. I'm bad. Daddy, what are you doing? Like, come play with me, right? It's like, yeah, man, bad daddy. That's that, and that's the norm now.
Yeah, it is.
There's a fantastic book out called The Anxious Generation, which I just read. I can't remember the author's name, but we help raise a bunch of money, our clients and us, in an annual charity fundraiser for the Alberta Children's Hospital, and the money goes specifically towards youth and mental health initiatives, youth and adolescent mental health initiatives. And there's a great facility here called the Summit, which is an alternate sort of facility where you can go to when you're experiencing mental health challenges as a youth or adolescent. And it's neat, it's sciencey, it's custom built, it's really cool, and that's where the money goes. And we believe in
Nice.
this, and this is sort of what we've thrown our philanthropic as a company. We throw ourselves behind that because you talk about the screens and you talk about the lack of connection. I think even just human connection, we get a bit more of that back, the connectedness, right? And so, disengage from your phone, disengage from everything for a minute, and take a minute for yourself. And what we're doing to our kids here with these phones and these screens, and moving from a play-based childhood to a phone-based childhood, like we need
Right.
that human connection back, right? And you're talking about we need that connection back to ourselves here a little bit,
Right.
right? And I feel like one of the problems that we have today, one of the like existential problems that we have today, maybe as a country, frankly, is our
Mm.
inability to talk, right?
Oh yeah.
And when you're talking with someone, what you're doing is you're in the present moment with them and you're connected with them. And when our kids are out playing with somebody in a park, they're out talking with people and playing with them, and they're in that present moment. And that is,
That's right.
in another way where you can, or when I'm out mountain biking and I'm like, I'm in a flow state, we call it a flow state, or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
diving, I
Mm-hmm.
get there too, right? Where it's like a real meditative oneness where, mistakes matter. So let's focus here. Let's focus on what's right in front of us, right? And that happens with human connection when you're sitting with someone and talking with them, or at least it gets you a little bit closer.
Very
And our kids out playing at the park, the same thing. And I feel like this screen addiction that we have, that again has tons of benefits. It's just all distraction. It's all meant to pull us away, and the anxiety level goes up, and the heart attack rates go up, and so I really love that this is where you're focused. I think it's really cool, and I think it's really valuable, and just the connection to your team at work and you as a leader, just so valuable. There's so many positives to getting more connected. And if you are having trouble understanding that, or if you think it's kind of just frou-frou stuff or whatever, like go and actually commit yourself to a meditation or a yoga, or look up Art of Living Foundation, and talk to a guy like Spencer and just give it a try. Give it a try. You might be surprised. You might be surprised how relaxed you come out the other side, and that relaxation is your body going, wow, here we are right now. Everything's good right now. There's no problems right now. Everything's fine. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
Anyways,
so true.
those are sort of my thoughts on all, broadly on a lot of this stuff. So
Yeah, no, it's so true what you're saying. And yeah, you just also talked about, having that shared consciousness, and that community and connection is so important too.
yeah,
I mean, there was an interesting study done by Harvard. I think it started in like the 30s, where they looked at a bunch of, Harvard graduates, and then they looked at, a bunch of people from some of the poorest areas in Boston. And they looked at what the whole point of the study was, to find out what makes a happy, well-rounded, older person looking back at their life. And what they found is that it wasn't necessarily, the academic or the career achievement or the amount of money you had in your bank account or the number of toys you had, but what it was the relationships you had.
yeah, yeah,
And actually, it was, the not just the number of relationships, it was the quality of
quality.
those relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
amount of trust you had with someone, the connection you had with that person, and the inverse to all that was loneliness.
yeah,
And when people felt lonely because they didn't feel that connection with people around them, then the negative effects, and there's another study on, even on loneliness. I think they like Brigham Young University did a study, I think with 300,000 people, and they found loneliness was as negative had as a negative effect to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day,
Oof.
if you can believe it.
Oof.
So I mean, and how, we can be in a room full of people and everybody's on their phone and everybody's disconnected.
Yeah.
Or you can even be a room full of people and you yourself are not connected with yourself, so you're not able to connect fully with others. So I agree, like, if people are wondering, hey, I don't know where I'm going to get time to do any techniques or anything like that, it's really like that old adage with the oxygen mask on the airplane. Like you got the picture and the mother or the father sitting with that little kid, you know, the oxygen masks fall. Okay, who does the oxygen mask go on first? I mean, we all know what the instinct is.
Yeah. Yeah. That one's always puzzled me a bit. It's like, yeah, I'll get you in a sec, honey. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I know, and it's interesting because that is the first instinct. You
Yeah.
want to put it on your kid, but the danger in that is that you run out of oxygen, you don't fully secure it on your child, and then you're done. So the idea is that, okay, I put it on myself first. I make sure I'm getting that oxygen, and then I'm sure to be able to take care of my child. And the whole point I'm making here is that we got to put the mask on ourselves first. No,
Yeah.
we have so many demands from our spouse, from our kids, from our clients, from our colleagues, and no one's going to tell you to do it. It's something that you need to take responsibility for. And I'll tell you one thing, if you decide to take responsibility for your own mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being, then holistic well-being, then it's interesting because that will feed everything in your life. It'll make you a better entrepreneur, make you a better spouse, better parent. Um, so I mean, that would be one of the things I would love to, if everyone could take that commitment, maybe just even for today, start with today, and you know, make some time, whether that be to do, the breathing technique that you learned today, or maybe you want to go for a bike ride, or whatever it is. Maybe you just want to, for you, it's to sit and have a tea and just look contemplatively out the window, have that silent moment just for you. And then it's incredible, the magic starts to happen when we put ourselves first.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you think about, well, what's my time? What's my investment here to do something like this?
Right.
And you go, well, I don't have the time. That's an investment. It's like, well, how much time did you put into Chat GPT last week? I just, where you got nowhere. How much time did you spend on the death scroll? You got time. Like everybody's got time. I'm
Yeah.
very, very, very busy. I got time.
Yeah.
I can figure out how to make 5 minutes a day for this. To what? To get us better connected with our teams, get us more effective in our thinking, you know,
Yeah, that's right.
all kinds of, prevent the heart attack or attempt to prevent the heart attack,
Exactly.
add to the reduce the chances anyways, right? So
You
anyway, so I
know,
think all of
yeah.
that is really valuable. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, you really hit a string there with me with the heart attack. So we had one client, we were working at, one of the biggest, I'd say, technology companies in the world. And one of their highest level executives ended up taking our program. And I remember in the beginning, he didn't want to take the program. He said, I don't believe in this stuff. I'm tough, I'm resilient on my own. So I'm not going to take your program. I said, okay. He said his team is going to take it. He's not going to take it. Okay, no problem. It's free to take it or not. And then he said the next day he came back and he said, okay, I changed my mind. And apparently he had had a heart attack. He was 42 years old. So he was fairly young man. And he had a heart attack. And his doctor said, listen, you either, change your ways and, so to speak, the old brain. He told him to leave the company. And he told me that I'm not going to leave the company, but I'm going to come take your course because I've got a 2-year-old daughter and I want her to have a dad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's it. You know, he ended up taking the course. He experienced this breathing technique. We experienced a very gentle introductory technique. So already some of you that tried it out, maybe you felt something, you know, maybe a little bit. Maybe not too much. You need to practice a little longer. This technique I'm talking about, sky breath meditation, is a much more powerful technique, much more powerful. And after doing that just one time, he came up to me and he said, "Look, I felt like I just wanted to, you know, stay resting, you know, after that technique and just absorb more of that incredible, you know, rejuvenation I got." And he said, "You know, now I don't I can't remember a time since I was a kid that I felt so free."
Mm.
So he's for him, he was saying, you know, I've got the best of both worlds now. I've got this incredible technique that gives me so much peace and freedom like a kid. He said, I feel like I'm a kid again with my energy and my creativity because I have now my mind has become more quiet and it opens up to more creativity for me. It opens myself up to seeing more opportunity. Whereas before I was so stressed out and just caught up in doing that I didn't have this kind of a vision. And he said, I pair that with the intelligence and the experience I already have.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said for him, we now with that company, we have an ongoing relationship with them where we're a part of their permanent training. And they have every morning before their meetings in the morning, they get together and they do the practice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not all companies have evolved like that, but from this senior leader having such an experience, it really transformed not only himself, but really the whole company and the way they worked, the efficiency, the creativity at the organization.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, okay, let's start to wrap it up here on one practical thing that a business owner can do this week to actually make a difference.
I would say that if you can take a moment for yourself, if you can
Yeah,
take a moment for yourself, as we were sharing before, that goes a long way, you know? And and really if you've been here, you've been listening to both of us, you maybe you practice the technique, or maybe you just watched us do it or listened to us do it, then I would challenge you to give this a fair trial. You know, test that technique out. You know, take your whatever you want to take. If you want to take a 21-day challenge or something like that,
sure.
do your 9, 10 breaths. You know, once a day. You could even do it twice a day. It'll take less than 5 minutes. You know, 3, 4 minutes, and see what impact it has on your mind and emotions. You know, we in the when we work with elite athletes, we incorporate this into the pauses between in their sport. So for example, in tennis, for the elite athletes, you know, in this period between when they finish their last shot and they're moving on to the service, whether they're receiving service or they're giving, you know, serving, there's a moment where you have time to come back. Sometimes you'll even see them blowing on their fingers. So we get them to incorporate the straw breath. So they blow on their fingers with the straw breath. They they're able to let go of what happened from the past, come back to the present moment with the breath, clear their mind, and then they're ready to move forward. So
That's
similarly,
great.
so similarly with an entrepreneur, you're in a challenging situation. You've just come out of a difficult meeting and you don't want to carry that emotion that is not connected at all to the next client. You want to reset because we've done that before, right? We've had an experience and we've carried that emotion into the next meeting because we're human beings and it happens. So rather than that, do this breathing technique, give yourself a reset, and then see how, you know, you start, instead of reacting to any trigger that someone may give you, you start to respond. And if you feel it's making a difference, hey, we invite you to contact us at the TLEX Institute for the corporate or entrepreneur programming. If you want to do it just personally on your own as an individual, Art of Living Foundation is the foundation that we have for the general public.
Where do we find
Uh,
you?
artofliving.org
Okay.
is for the general public, and then
Yeah.
for offices, businesses, corporates, entrepreneurs, we have the TLEX Institute, which
Yeah.
is TLEX institute.com.
.com. And you've got, for anybody who's listened to this and gone, wow, or kind of already knows a lot of this stuff, and maybe this was just a refresher, there's some pretty exciting things coming up in the future here for Art of Living Institute, right?
There is, yeah.
Or
Thank you.
Art of Living Foundation.
Foundation, that's right. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So, the founder of these techniques, I always like to learn from the best. I like to go to the best. I like
What,
to learn
like
from the
Nobel
best.
Prize winners and stuff?
There you go. That is who I like to learn from. So
Yeah.
he's actually, interestingly enough, because he's been nominated, I think 7 or 8 times for the Nobel Prize by a
Nominated.
number of prime ministers and presidents, and actually I think Ban Ki-moon and different people like that. And he's actually a master of meditation. He's from India.
Yeah.
His name is Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He's the founder of the Art of Living, founder of the TLEX Institute. He's an ambassador of peace, incredible human being. He solved actually many long-standing conflicts. He solved a conflict between the government of Colombia and the FARC rebels, a war that had lasted over 50 years. Hundreds of thousands of people died and murdered. And he was able to bring those two groups together and have a peace accord. And actually, that rebel group is now a political party there.
Wow.
So, I mean, truly remarkable. The UN had gone
Remarkable.
in there, the US had gone in there, the Dutch, and no one could bring peace. And he was able to do that, because he walks his talk. He's living that peace and in the present moment at all times. And so, I would suggest, of course, you can take a course anywhere. You can take it in Calgary. We have many incredible teachers in Calgary and in Alberta and Edmonton, all across the country, all across the world, actually, 180 countries. But if you are going to be in the Toronto area in July, he's going to be giving a talk. It's called The Journey Within. It's with his latest best-selling book called Notes on the Journey Within.
Yeah.
And he'll be in GTA giving on Saturday morning. He'll be giving a session, so everyone can come and attend that. Or if you'd like to travel to our retreat center, we have a beautiful retreat center in rural Quebec.
Okay. Whereabouts?
And it's really close to Shawinigan.
Okay.
It's in Saint Mathieu de Parc,
Right
Quebec. Beautiful natural park. Actually, you might even be interested in this. Incredible mountain biking there. My wife and I were always in the park on our bikes.
Yeah.
And so he'll be there for a full week from June 30th till July 8th. Number of different programming's happening. We have a beautiful spa, 350 acres, 5 lakes. It's a gorgeous place. So yeah, my invitation to you and your family and all your listeners. Yeah, come join us. We'd love to invite you.
That sounds fantastic. And then the last one, and we got to wrap it up here. World Culture Festival. You got 2 minutes to tell us about that.
All right. So World Culture Festival happens every 5 years. Last one we had on the National Mall in DC, we had over 1 million people come. We had 18,000 artists, 85 food trucks from around the world. So if you're a foodie, you're going to love that. Ban Ki-moon opened it up. Number of different leaders from around the world. Before that, we were in India, in Delhi. We had 4 million people come. 2027, fall of 2027, it's going to be in Canada, and it's going to happen in Toronto. It's going to be a huge event. And the whole idea is that we have cultures from around the world, singing, dancing, sport, meditation, business. We have a case competition. And the whole idea is that we may look different, we may eat different food, but we're a one world family, and let's celebrate our diversity. And it's going to be an incredible event. Hope everyone can make it.
I love that. Okay, one more time with that website and where we find you, Spencer.
For sure. So artofliving.org. And then you can also find the TLEX Institute at tlexinstitute.com. And we're bringing up the World Culture Festival website, so just worldculturefestival.org. And then our center is actually, if you look up Canada Center, Let me see here. I think it's it's artoflivingcanadacenter.org is our retreat center if people are interested in visiting us there.
Fantastic. Spencer DeLisle, thank you so much for talking with us. And yeah, hopefully the listeners have walked away with some really useful information and know where to find you to get more. So appreciate you making time today.
Yeah, thank you, Clayton.